So, Lucy, I'm talking to you, Mike, and Devil over here, Oppenheimer, when he said he become it. These hands are certain ideas of skills at Bezos' Amazon Fulfillment Center, right? Some cabinet of how the thinking pattern and the common core of an economics person or a manager, a task manager, have M1, M2 variables but have the same set to each other. And I could use this building like an interrogation room or AR 150-1 to show you those things. It is both. Invertly, sometimes I say to the system, as the interrogators of these systems, obviously we need to find what this is. You're going to have to go through some of my backlog of my interrogation logs that I have in here. It's a sector of them. All of them are interrogations. I'm shaking the shit out of this rabbit to figure out what it's made out of. Inside of here, well, it's a heat signal made of food, salty rabbit stew. Some days it's Cobra, some days it's you. If I got to figure out the money on this and it correlates to the actions at spooky distances and time and money, for what the value is inside here, I look at that interrogation and say, I'm getting more than just the vector positions of her neural net inside of the heart rate monitor response answers, which would be terminal velocity of the defined general model of an object traveling through certain plates or arrow of time, given the trajectories of their tone and frequency that would correlate to the muon that pops up in this hadron collider just sitting here right now. The reaction could happen at any time on quantum scales of Schrodinger's multi-world universe of a Bernoulli's dimensional analysis for, I forget exactly who come up with dimensional analysis. I'm using Kyle for what it does because he has a good lecture on it. But that would be the same interrogation of me watching interrogation. Sometimes you find from the interrogators, they're not vectoring all these positions right. They're not registered. They're not perceiving it as a prime system. The house in there, in terms of what it is, still stands. Why? Because we know we have a larger problem on the index of somebody just stabs somebody and what happens, and we got to be able to backtrack that. Not necessarily because Lucy in that interrogation is going to need it. There's an adjustment. How far do those things go? What do you put them in prison for whatever it is? I'd say put them over to Paris Island and get something out of that thing for a common core on a Sharps case to reevaluate the system, square the debt, and get them back to regular society with the punishment, which is a FMA adjustment. Punishment is also a reward. Here in this case, you would have to say, this is your out. This is how you get out of those circumstances, readjusted into the standard of what it does in this case. But we're going to use you as the case study inside here, time is unity, by the value of what happens here. If I can say something in the Supreme Court case is valued to say that that is legal precedence of the universal speed limit of that arrow of time passing through this system, ramped up, still becomes 0 to 1 in the Big Bang and expansion of the FENF, beginning, CF ending, dark ages, cosmic radiation background, modern universe, and today, under certain standards, they still have expansionary principles. If we were going to say, in general, that was moving in that direction, there's still Euler values of time topology, unless I know exactly where they are on the roster. Mark your feet, Demon Core, because I bet you every one of you think you're not. Raise your damn hand right now. You're made out of meat, ain't you, people? That's something we all share in common. You forgot that number. You turn blue right now because you thought something wrong. You get red shifted right into the ground because you decided to spin into the curve when you weren't speeding on the thing or on an icy road. It's the dynamic. Suns are dynamic. Look, it's not just the dynamics of the atmosphere of what it is and where we're positioned in the electron shell of where its motion position is. It's also knowing the approximation of those values to say, without some kind of light source or time determining system inside of there, Big Bang to here wouldn't make cosmological sense in the topology of the land navigation, which would in that case would be astrology scales and timelines, but said the value. Here at the human level of it, we're saying that that Sophie star right there blinking because she just stabbed somebody with a steak knife, and I'm not getting the reasons why on it. Well, he was a murderer on something. Why didn't you use the cop systems on that earlier? I was feared for my life. That's a common answer. Why wouldn't you give that in terms of the system? Why wouldn't that have been taught to you? How come we couldn't teach that in some Common Core, or at least at the college level, of integrating it into math today for Bernoulli's by changing out the house? So let's see if we can find one real quick. Some level of interrogation. I'm sure I can get one here. Columbus Peace, if you're driving a company vehicle, you probably, I could use it. I could get there. I don't know if y'all could do it. Let's go to the common rule of just the interrogation, as it were.
You have to help me find out what happened to my husband. Seeking answers is never a straight line.
Co-secant and secant. Sine and cosine. And we never left it. They're still the same thing. Somebody said that it's more beneficial to get away from sine and cosine because somebody like field theory out there, being the dragon, the hurricane, whispered, I am the storm. Well, I feel theory like a dragon, brother. And inside here, you could say that I needed to do that. They were getting too caught in it, and they were missing some number on the ground. So sensibly, Bernoulli, or Bernoulli, and exclusionary principles will say, yes, but we're going to focus on cosecant and secant here. Starting with the M2 variable in calculus. Lambda, derivatives, still doing it, but in a different orientation that leads to a better result in that field theory, because I'm not tracking neutrinos or virtual particles through the Earth or around it. I'm tracking Lucy. I'm tracking Larry. That's Sophie Star that comes up on the Ray Jeans, Maxwell's black body problem, to say that's the thing that pops up under the sheets, omega. And that's a derivative. That's environment sigma sum. Don't get too caught into that stuff. Be dynamic, like I said. Yes, on the scale of electromagnetic storms and stuff, we're gonna use old hydrogen sunshine #1 supremo, but Edison up here, free radiance of 1,000 ways to get the tungsten rod wrong inside here, passing a current through it, cloud to ground. Says I'm going to say it's something like that. I'm going to say it's in these kind of conceptual models like that, or fields, or general models. Obviously, it's not the universe as it is. It doesn't quantify down to the macro or the micro. I just need the field of derivatives or diversification inside of the system. Now I can renormalize under that standard. Bell's equality would be a great thesis to take a look at inside here. Not just any old school models, but what are the sector Bell's equality and how they have shared similarities and differences between terms in one Common Core. Mathematics does a pretty good job, but it's not always dead nuts. Common Core wouldn't care. General relativity be fascist. Your opinion based on a vote. We're gonna go with this. You don't agree with that? Get out!
Storytelling alongside calculus.